Hello again, it's Jess or JashiiCorrin and welcome back for another video. Today I'll be giving you guys a closer look at my savings and spending tracker that I'm using as part of my 2019 bullet journal. I'm going over why I decided to set up this spread, how it was set up and how it works, and then how I use it in my day-to-day planning. As per usual, any of the equipment I used in the setup of this one is linked in the description box below. So before we jump into it, just as a bit of background information, I've been keeping track of my spending and earnings for a bit over 10 years now. When I first started, it was really just a log of money that came in and where it came from, and then the money that went out and where it went. I've always used Microsoft Excel to track my spending so that I can have it automatically add up my totals for me. Over the years, my spendings and earnings tracker has evolved as I've become more proficient in Excel. My current tracker in Excel allows me to see totals for different categories and subcategories, all presented with mini in-cell bar graphs, while all I need to do is write down the amount I spend on things and what category it fits into. The rest is done automatically. Although I've always been good at tracking my money, I didn't actually start seriously saving until about 2014, when, after 6 years of working at McDonald's and having really nothing to show for it, I changed my relationship with money. Before then, I was the type of person who didn't really consider developing my financial stability, and I was more of the make that money, watch it burn kind of person. So my savings were pretty much non-existent. At the start of 2014, however, I decided to make it my goal to save $10,000 in a year. And that's a pretty lofty goal for a non-saver, but to put it in a bit of perspective, I was still living at home at the time, so my expenses were pretty minimal. I was at university buying myself cheap, shitty food, and my travel costs were pretty low as well because my parents had gotten me a moped which cost roughly $6 a week to fill up. As I worked my way towards that goal, I found that putting money into my savings became a really satisfying thing for me. So at least a little bit of each of my paychecks started going towards building those up. After that first year of success with savings, I decided to make this a regular goal of adding $10,000 to my savings over the course of each year. So, if I'm supposedly already good at tracking my spending and saving money, then why did I feel the need to make this spread? Well, if you've watched some of my previous videos, you'll know that last year, myself and my partner bought our first home. This happened back in April-May of last year, so since then our finances have really changed quite a bit. So of course, to start with, there's the cost of the deposit, and then there's the lawyer's fees, and then you start paying your loan repayments, and every so often those rate bills come in. But those costs are all expected. On top of those though, we also had the costs of getting our bathrooms and kitchen redone for a variety of reasons, and then our hot water cylinder decided to break, and then just other smaller maintenance things that you don't necessarily consider when you're just filled with all the excitement of owning your own place. As a side note here, I'm not making excuses. It is very possible to save while owning a home. It's just that it hasn't been happening for us since we moved in. In 2018, this was the first year that I'd ever have my budget end up in the red come December 31st. Because we've had so much money going out, I wanted to make sure that this year I really made it a focus to rebuild my savings, and thus why I created this spread. So that's the why. Let's have a look at the how. So starting with the spread here on the left, this is a summary of my total money in and money out for each month. At the end of each month, once I've logged all of my spending and my income into my Excel tracker, I then take the totals from the overview page and I put them here as 2 bars of a bar graph. As could be expected, the goal here is to have the bars on the left larger than the bars on the right. Down the bottom of the page, I also left myself a space for the overall money in and money out for the year, as well as an overall total which I'm hoping that at the end of this year will be a positive value. In terms of the spacings on this page, the box for the tracker is 13 centimeters across, so 26 squares, and it is 12 centimeters down, or 24 squares. I have the central centimeter, or central 2 square strip, down the middle here for the initials for each of the months, which means I have 6 centimeters on each side for the money in and then the money out. I decided to use this spacing, where 1 centimeter is equal to $1,000, because in a regular month I don't earn or spend more than $6,000 either way. So having that 1 centimeter of space being $1,000 works well for me. In terms of the other elements on this page, I have 3 squares down for the title, then an empty row of squares, 2 squares down for the money in and money out headers, then another empty row of squares, the main tracker, and then a blank row again, 2 squares down for the totals title, another blank row, and then finally 2 rows down for my overall totals. In my day-to-day journaling, I don't actually use this page. It only gets filled at the end of each month, once I've actually totaled up my spending and income for the relevant month. Moving on to this page on the right, this one was inspired by the Year in Pixels trackers that a lot of people in the community are pretty keen on. On this one we have 2 squares across by 1 square down for each of the boxes for each day of the year. In a traditional Year in Pixels spread, this would be filled depending on your mood for the day, but mine gets coloured in depending on how much I spend. The colours I'm using for this one come from my favourite rainbow combination of Tombow gel brush markers. So we have the purple 665, which is for no spending, the blue 515, which is for spending that is $10 or less, green 195, which is for $20 or less, the yellow 025 for $30 or less, orange 933 for $40 or less, and then pink 755 is for $40 or over. As can be expected here, the goal is to have as many purple or no spend days as possible. For me personally, I count a no spend day as a day where I didn't, for lack of a better term, spend unnecessarily. Spending that I count on this spread is anything outside of my bills and my groceries, though I do have some special cases. So for instance, my media subscriptions like Netflix and Spotify, those ones I do count as bills, but I will include them on this spread. Similarly, groceries that fit under the snacks or drinks categories, because I treat these as luxury items, I'll also include them on this spread as well. The way I use this page day to day is that whenever I update my budget with my spending and income, I've built a function into my tracker that lets me put in the date, and it tells me for that day what my spending was that fits the restrictions I mentioned before. So how much I spent that wasn't bills or groceries. Then taking that total, I can colour the box for that day with the colour that represents the amount I spent. Although this page isn't strictly necessary, it is certainly giving me a better visual representation of my spending habits. In terms of the spacing in this setup, the main tracker has 13 1 centimeter columns across, and then 28 rows of squares down. Ruling along there, we end up with 364 individual boxes, so I have this extra one down here for day 365. Just as a side note, I totally think we should have 12 months that are 28 days long, and then 1 month that is 29 days long. Also as an aside, if you weren't already able to guess it, all of my black outlining and text on this layout was done using my Faber-Castell Pitt Artist pens. Anyways, each of the boxes are labelled with the day number, except for the first of each month, which has the initial for that month. So here in January 1st got a J, February 1st got an F, March 1st got an M, and so on and so forth. The header on this page got the same spacing as the one on the left, so we have 3 squares down for the main header, a row of empty squares, 2 squares down for the key, followed by another row of empty squares, and then the main tracker. On the last row of this page, I also just wanted to write myself a little reminder of the exceptions I have for tracking my spending. Although at the moment I'm well aware of them, I want to make sure I have this reminder so that if in years to come I flip back to this page, I know what I did and didn't include. Some of the ways that you could change this spread up to make it more of your own would be playing around with the color combination for one. Mine I did in a rainbow theme because I decided to make all of my start of journal pages in this same rainbow color. Although I decided on rainbow, this page could be equally effective in a different color scheme. What you might want to try could be having a 2-color scale. So for instance, if we went with red and green, where green is no spending and red is lots of spending. As part of that, you could make it so that the money in bar was green and the money out bar was red. Another way you could change this one would be to make the spending tracker here a bit more similar to the regular Year in Pixels, where each of the boxes for each individual day is just an individual square. In the regular year in pixels, you also have it so that the number of rows down represents the number of days in that month. Doing it this way would leave a fair bit of space on the side here, which you could use to outline some specific saving goals, or maybe some ways that you intended on saving money. A last tweak that I can think of could be that for the bar graph over here, although I have mine running down the page, you could choose to flip this and have the money in and money out bars for each month possibly next to each other, just to make it easier for comparison. My question for you guys though, do you guys keep track of your money in your bullet journal? I'm intending on making a video in a few weeks about different money related spreads. So if you'd be keen on seeing that one, make sure to let me know in the comments below, and if you wanted to, feel free to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll be back again on Thursday with another weekly Plan With Me video. Until next time, bye!